Hi guys, it's Christine from Tamar's Hope, and I wanted to come on and share a video. And this is a video that was actually inspired by a video that I just watched, and it actually reminded me of something that I wanted to share at some point. And I never got around to it, and I just watched the video and it reminded me of something that I have thought about before. So I think I want to name the title of this video, They Want Your Partner. They want your man, or they want your woman. And this video is something that, this topic rather, something that, as I mentioned, I had thought of before and kind of just crossed my mind, but I didn't really think about the the real moral or the principle of the topic too deeply. But as I've said, when I watched this video, it really inspired me to come on and to share. So it got me thinking that, right, sometimes when you are somebody who is in a relationship with someone and that person is somebody that on the surface nobody would initially be, drawn to or attracted to, or they wouldn't be somebody that, you know, really would catch someone's eye in terms of maybe charisma or looks or finances or whatever, right? And this could be anybody. This could be a man or a woman. And initially, if this person is single, or even if, they're married, right? Initially, probably nobody would even think twice about being drawn to them or being, interested in. But what happens is this very like strange phenomenon, right? When that person, whether they're single or they're married, when they see other people, when they see the way that that person treats their spouse, it's interesting dynamic, because what will happen is that the curiosity will begin to shift in their thinking of these outside people. And especially if they're single, or if they're in a marriage where, they're not in a happy marriage, or they feel like, you know, they they're just not happy for whatever reason, right? And maybe they even have a spouse that they do love, but that spouse doesn't treat them necessarily in the way that they see that, the way that your spouse treats you. And even though like they could feel happy, or maybe they could be your friend, or maybe they could be pretending to be your friend, but secretly there's those thoughts, those very human thoughts, and those dynamics. And like I said before, that phenomenon, that curiosity will start to, pique their curiosity, especially if you're somebody who is, known in on social media, or if you're somebody who, is just very active and you have a lot of things going on, and this person is connected to you through, like I said, just it could be a coworker, it could be a family member, it could be a friend, it could be someone in church. It doesn't matter, right? You're in their line of sight. They see you from afar, or it could be near or far, it doesn't matter, but they just see you, right? Like I said, on social media, in church, and in family, at work. And initially this person will not think twice about it, but as they see you interacting with your spouse and or your partner, there's this strange mental twist that will start to happen in their mind where they'll start thinking, well, why does she have that and I don't? Or why does he, his wife treat him that way and mine doesn't, right? And like I said, they could just be even in a marriage where their spouse is, maybe not necessarily in an unhappy marriage, but they're just not treating them the way that your partner treats you. And at first, maybe they even start to dismiss it and think, oh, that's not right. I shouldn't think that way. But what will start to happen over time is that person, as they continue to see more and more of the interaction of you and your spouse, that emotion will start to grow. That negative emotion of that jealousy, that envy, that covetousness, to the point where, they could even pretend to be smiling in your face, but secretly, they wish that maybe they don't even wish that they had your spouse, but they wish that their spouse treated them the way that your spouse treats you. Or they might be wanting your spouse. And sometimes it's interesting because you can be with somebody that initially no one would ever be drawn to or attracted to or interested in, but because they're with you, right? Because maybe, like I said, they see, the quality of life that you have. Maybe you're on social media content creator. Maybe you have a business. Maybe, you're successful in what you do in ministry or at work or in church or whatever it is that you do, and they can see that, and it makes them it's something inside of them that would make them interested in that person just because they want to see what it's like to be you, right? So they see your life and maybe they admire it or they're inspired of it, but sometimes that inspiration and that admiration will turn into jealousy and covetousness subtly over time, whether they want to or not. And maybe it's subconscious at first, but then it starts to grow. And that's why it's so careful to make sure that you never allow anyone in close range and proximity to you and your spouse, no matter, what the relationship is. And it can be a man or a woman, because we don't always know what's in somebody's heart. And these things are things that sometimes develop over time, and it's subtle, and it's not something that, you just wake up one day and, you find out that your friend is acting shady, or, you could just feel the energy. Like you can feel something's off and you can't put your finger on it, right? And like I said, it might not even necessarily be like they want your man, but because, or your wife, but because it's you, then it makes them even more like, especially if they have jealousy and envy towards you, it makes them even more curious. And that thought will grow into something more than it's supposed to be, because, well, it's not even supposed to be there to begin with, but it'll grow because it's you. And they see all of the blessings, they see all of the gifts, they see all of the things that you're doing. And on top of that, like, especially if they're in an unhappy marriage, or it might not even be an unhappy marriage or relationship, right? They're in, it could just be that they see that your spouse treats you a certain way and their spouse doesn't treat them that way, or their boyfriend treats them a certain way, or girlfriend, and, you know, and it's just not the way that they would prefer that they treat them, and they see how your partner treats you, so that's the way that they would want to be treated, but their partner and the spouse or their boyfriend and girlfriend is not treating them that way. So that's why it's so important to be careful about, like I said, people that you allow in your life, in your friendship circles, in people that you open up your heart to or you're vulnerable to, and you think you can trust. And even if, there's somebody that, you don't think would ever do something like that, we just never know. And, we hear these stories all the time where, you know, people have best friends and they tried making, a pass at their husband or their wife, and, and then the husband or wife winds up telling them, and the relationship just goes south, right? And it's better not to even be put in that position again. So it's always best, I think, especially like I said, you just to monitor people and to monitor their and just always pay attention to your discernment and your intuition no matter what, because your intuition and your gut will never lie to you. And even if, there's something off and you don't necessarily see it like in, real time, or you don't see anything manifesting, but even if you have like the slightest, like if those thoughts are going through your mind and nothing's happening, there's no reason why that thought would go through your mind unless you're paranoid or there's something else going on. But that's not, what I'm talking about here. What I'm talking about here is how sometimes people will be drawn to the way that your partner treats you, and then over time, subtly, the curiosity will start to grow. And especially if they admire you or they're inspired by you, and that admiration or inspiration turns into, you know, covetousness or envy or jealousy, and they're like, well, why her and not me? Well, why him and not me? Like my wife doesn't treat me like that. My husband doesn't treat me like that, and they just see all these other things that you're doing. And just, like we're all human at the end of the day, right? Like we can all have those human feelings. And especially if you're a Christian, like sometimes you don't want to believe it because you're like, no, they're a Christian, they're my friend, they would never do anything like that, they're my family member. There's somebody, well, especially not a coworker, but especially like, if you're feeling that way, then it's just something to be mindful of. And just, keep note on, because these things do happen. And unfortunately, like some people will, like I said, they won't even have an interest in somebody generally outside of them being with you, but because they're with you, they want to know what it feels like to be treated that way. They want to know what it's like to have somebody that loves them like that. They want to know, like, why you and not them. All right, guys, so I wanted to come on and share this video. Please leave a comment in the comment section, hit like and subscribe, share this word, and let me know if you've ever gone through something like that where, you just knew, like, initially you were with your partner that somebody, or somebody that just would not be initially attracted to at first, but then, because they got into a relationship with you, now all of a sudden, like, they become more interesting, or just more marketable to people who are not happy in other relationships. And especially if they covet and envy you and to begin with, or they're inspired or jealous by what you're doing, but it's secret envy. And if they're in a relationship that might not be a happy relationship, or even if it is a happy relationship, but they're just not happy with the way that they don't like the way that they see your spouse is treating you, because their spouse or their partner doesn't treat them like that. All right, guys, talk to you soon. Take care, and I'll see you in the next video. God bless you. Bye-bye.